1.3, which is the TIPP&SEE. Okay, so TIPP&SEE is a strategy that we've created that helps students understand how to look at a Scratch project. So we found that when the students were looking at Scratch projects, they were quickly just getting into where the blocks were and trying to figure things out. And we felt that there was a better, more systematic way for them to really understand everything and get the information that they need in order to both modify and create a Scratch project. So this is what you'll present to them, the TIPP&SEE. It's a guide to understand and learn from an existing Scratch project. So that's part of the process. Is we teach the concept, whatever the concept is for that unit, and then we give them a project, already completed project, and they're going to tinker with it to see how it works. And this TIPP&SEE will give them a guide to show them how to tinker with the project. So they'll both tinker with it, answer some questions, and then part of the TIPP&SEE is called, there's part of it called a quest, which we're also going to do today, where they're actually going to modify the project. They're going to make a copy of their own and modify it and make it do different things. So the first part of the TIPP&SEE is the tip, which is the outside. So this is what the user or someone, if you create in any project, in any computer program, the user is someone who is going to be looking and running your program. So the person that's looking at the project from the outside. And this is the information that you see on in Scratch, which is called the project page. And what we want them to notice is what's the title of the project. And this also helps them when they do their own projects, create names that are relevant to the project, not just, this is my Scratch. You know, that they'll learn that creating a title that gives the users some information about the project will help them understand what the project's about. So this project, the title of the project, Scratch Basics Under the Sea, is going to tell them a little bit about Scratch, the basics of Scratch, and the theme is Under the Sea. The second part of TIP, the I, is instructions. And this is very important. It seems like these days, and I am very complicit in this, a lot of people just skip reading instructions. And I think it's an important thing to teach kids that they need to read instructions in order to understand. Too many people just go quickly on to let's run it and see how it works versus reading how they should run it and how it should work. So this will help them kind of push them to actually read the instructions and understand what they should be doing. So in this case, the instructions, in this one, it's a fairly simple project. So it says, click the green flag to start the animation and hear from Fred the fish, which Fred the fish doesn't show up in this picture. So it's good information to know that there's going to be another sprite. If you want to see the code behind the project, click the See Inside button, which is up on the right, upper right. The third part of TIP is the purpose, which is the purpose of the activity. And every project that we have in the curriculum gives a purpose, so that they know that they're learning about a certain topic or they're learning certain processes. And this one is just to get to know Scratch by observing what can be done. And then the fourth part of TIP is play. So TIPP&SEE, it's good to go through this in detail with the kids the first and maybe second units that you do it. So unit 1 and unit 2. So they get used to the process. And then once they get into unit 3, you can just remind them to follow TIPP&SEE and then they will follow the process. But it's good to kind of go through the steps for the units 1 and 2. All right. So play would be running the project and seeing what it would do. Okay, so the C is the inside. So this is where the coder creates the scripts for their project. So now we've read the instructions, we know how the program works. Let's see how the project or the program has been created. So S is the sprites, and we want to highlight that the sprites, which are down here in the sprites pane, this is what they're going to do. They're going to click on each of the sprites, and when you click on the sprites, it'll show you the code that's been created for the sprites. And this is just a picture, so I can't click on this to show you the Helen code, but at least the Fred code is clicked in this case. And so you can see these are the steps that Fred will take when the green flag is clicked, and that's the green flag that starts the program. The E is events, looking at the events block that starts the scripts. So that's what I just mentioned, is that the event block is always a yellow block with a little bump on top. And it's usually either when green flag clicked or when sprite clicked. There's some other things when a certain key is clicked, but that is what's going to start the action. So just like in Scratch Charades, we had green flag or sprite clicked, a program cannot start until an event occurs. So this event is going to define how the program starts. The second E is explore. And this is where they're going to follow their TIPP&SEE. We have a worksheet, which we're going to look at next. And they're going to explore the changes, making changes to the scripts and see what happens. So in this case, on this script, it says move 50 steps. So maybe the TIPP&SEE worksheet will say, change the move 50 to 100 and see what happens. And then they'll have to say, does it move further or does it move shorter?